My name is Edson O'Neill. I am the Student Employment Coordinator for the Center for Career and Professional Development. Again, tongue-tied. So I oversee student employment on and off campus, part-time jobs. So I figured this would be a great event to share with our student population in regards to the importance of student employment. I also have my Assistant Director of Campus and Industry Connections, Ivan, and then our Director, Christy, is out networking with a few employers, but she is here in spirit. So as we're getting our event started, I would like to introduce our esteemed panel that we have here on campus. Or, you know what, they can introduce themselves. So ladies first.
Thank you.
Let's start with Miss Tammy. Miss Tammy, go ahead and let everyone know who you are and what you do on campus.
Hi, friends. My name is Tammy Moscato. I'm an administrative specialist in student conduct and ethical development. I'm also a graduate student here at the University of South Florida and the biggest cheerleader of students.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Next, we have Mr. Harris.
Hi, I'm Faruqi. I'm Human Resources Lead for Aramark USF Dining here on campus. Proud to say that we, every semester, we've been playing somewhere between 300 to about 450 students in various roles, along USF Dining's scope, and very happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Next, we got my man over here, Kyrie.
Hey everybody, I'm Kyrie. I am a recruiter with Central Human Resources, and essentially, if you've ever emailed the Careers Help inbox, that was us. And what we do is we are a bridge that connects the 400 plus departments here at USF with Central HR to make sure we're doing all the right things and no one is getting in trouble.
And then finally, but certainly not least, we got our friend here, Mr. Patrick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Burke. I am the Associate Director of Event Logistics and Student Development at the Marshall Student Center, the Center for It All. I am paid to say that. My main role includes the supervision of the lovely events in our Marshall Student Center, from concerts to pageants to celebrations to lectures to small meetings. And we actually employ over 100 students in multiple positions to make those magical events happen for y'all. So I'm very excited to talk about our process and any tips and tricks we can give to you students.
All right, awesome. So I figured we should go ahead and get started with the questions. Trust me, I won't be too hard on you all with the questions. Our first question that I would like to ask is, when you all were in college, did y'all work on campus? And if so, how was your experience working on campus? And if you did not work on campus, why didn't you? Patrick, you can start us off.
I don't have a bus here. Just work. So I actually attended a small school up in Albany, New York, and I've never had a larger institution. Both my degrees are from smaller schools. So when you talk about school employment, smaller schools sounds nice, but less employment opportunities. So I actually ended up starting on campus and was a tour guide. So I worked with the admissions office, and before I actually was a tour guide, I actually had my room shown for tours. So I actually volunteered for some quick cash, wanted money, and they were looking for people for Saturday mornings to make sure their room was neat and they're awake, and they showed their rooms off for tour. They wanted actual rooms to show, not dummy rooms. So that was my first actual employment on campus. Was they gave me a gift card every time I show off my room. I think it was a $25 gift card to like a grocery store. Every time I showed off my room on the weekend. That was actually my first job on campus, of showing off my room. And then I finally became a tour guide, because apparently during those tours, I was talking it up so much, they wanted me to be a tour guide. So you never know where employment can come from that. I ended up going toward student government on campus and did that job for a while. And I also was an RA. So I was a very involved student. I don't like sitting still. You might notice that already. I enjoy being involved on campus. And I always say for students who want to get involved and get those jobs, is it comes through your initiative and your eagerness, and you'll never know where those opportunities come from. So I had multiple jobs on campus. I'm probably forgetting some, but I think trying out multiple positions over your time as a college student can benefit you and make you a well-rounded person.
Awesome, awesome. Kyrie, would you like to share?
So I actually also went to school in Albany. I went to the State University of Albany, and it was probably a lot bigger than
Actually, my next door neighbor's called St. Rose.
Oh, so you went to St. Rose, just right down the street from Patrick. And I did not work on campus, but I was very involved. It was just me going to class and then community service and then peer education. And I guess my experience is obviously different from someone who worked on campus. But just like Patrick said, I stayed involved. I did what I could, to boost my experiences. And like he said, you never know where employment can come from. So I was president of a group called Service is Key, again, community service and peer education. And that's where I was recommended to get into HR and recruiting. And they were the ones who helped me get my first job as a recruiter. So.
Okay, gosh, let's see here. I went to Rutgers University, New Jersey for undergrad.
Oh, wow.
So I was a student athlete, so I had a job affiliated with the gym. And I also worked at the computer lab at night, which I can tell everybody now, I really didn't do much. I sat there and,
What you mean?
people in and out. And then I also actually, while I was there, in the summers, we used to work at a restaurant, which is ironic because now, I work in food services here on campus, so
Wow.
full circle.
I love it.
Yeah.
I went to college later in life. So I was a full-time working adult when I started college. However, I was a student ambassador at school. And I just could reiterate with what everyone said here. You never know who you're going to come into contact with. You never know who was your next source of information or someone that you can network with that might be able to connect you to that next place that you need to get. So, and being involved was incredibly helpful and really enriching.
Thank you all for sharing, and I appreciate the consistency of how much, whether you worked or you were involved, it led to something. So I think students should understand that as working on campus or getting involved on campus, you never know where it can lead you to, where future aspirations or anything of that nature. So I'm glad I appreciate you all sharing your experiences and how it led y'all to, in a lot of ways, where you are now. So I appreciate y'all for sharing that. Next question. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard students complain about this, but students have complained to me when I've met with them in regards about, applying for jobs, applying for multiple jobs, many jobs, and not hearing back from certain areas, certain departments, and just kind of getting frustrated with that process and so on. So I was wondering, as hiring managers for the most part, can y'all talk a little bit about the process and what students should expect when they're applying for positions on campus? Carrie, I know you're in HR and you can do some of this stuff. So whatever feedback or information you can share would be awesome. And if anyone else wants to jump in as well.
Yes, I can say that it does take an element of persistence, applying, I know, like over and over again and not hearing back. But if you don't apply, you'll never get that yes. It's going to take many, many no's before you get that yes. I can speak for on-campus jobs and be very transparent. If you see a job on USF Careers, there's going to be a section with the minimum qualifications. You have to figure out how to display and tell your story or, edit your resume so that you beat that minimum requirement. Because if you don't meet that minimum, then you are pretty much pushed out of the process. Why we do that? I say we because I don't want to be bullied. I don't want a bunch of emails, but why we do that is not because we're jerks. It's because we are audited periodically on our activity. And if they go in and audit us and see that we are not following through with our own minimum qualifications, then we are all in big trouble. So it's to protect you guys, it's to protect us, and to protect the university. As far as not hearing back from managers, hiring teams, and departments, yes, we are aware of that stigma and reputation. I am a part of a newer recruitment team. We're going on 2 years old, I believe, and we're doing our best to reverse that reputation. So I can stand here, well, sit here and say, if you reach out to Central HR, that careers help inbox, what we do is we go right into our system and we tell you exactly what we see. Sometimes what we see does not match the actual activity that's going on. Then we will do our best to push and get those updates from hiring managers. But unfortunately, we cannot force anyone's hand. Like I said, there's a bit of persistence involved in being patient. And to be honest, hiring managers are very busy. They have many projects going on. They are supervising, managing, and directing lots of things. And if you try to put yourself in their shoes and imagine getting hundreds and hundreds of emails with the same question, you would get very overwhelmed very easily. So we try our best, us recruiters, Central HR, all departments, hiring managers, to get back to you. We're not just ignoring you because we're jerks. So,
Oh, the rumor's not true.
Howard, is there anything you'd like to add? I know you're HR in our world as well.
Sure. I think, I think we have some of the similar challenges. I think right now, especially on campus, there's certainly the dilemma or the balances, or imbalance, I should say, is there's a lot more applicants than there are open jobs. And, we noticed that when we post a job, even within a day or two of posting it, we are really, really, really inundated with a lot of qualified personnel. And it will only have sometimes 1 to maybe 3 or 4 headcounts open. And if I have about 200 people who applied, I'm still gonna have 196 people who feel that they weren't reached out to, whereas, we found 4 people who were great. So that's constantly a challenge with us, is unfortunately we have a limited amount of jobs and a robust candidate pool. The one thing I would mention to what you're saying is the qualifications do matter. It's a basic kind of, must have kind of thing. So if you don't meet those qualifications, if you have a way to kind of explain existing work experience or translate it, sure, do that. But if it's something that you're not qualified for, my recommendation is, probably going against what you said is, conserve that energy for a different role that you might be qualified for. I know the application process has multiple steps to fill out. Don't go through those steps if you know that this might not be the right position for you. I know people who are applying to, executive chef positions who've never stepped in the kitchen. And I'm just like, while I appreciate the initiative, I really do. Like, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Because at the end of the day, like, if we're hiring somebody who's never stepped in the kitchen to be executive chef, we're gonna have a lot of sick people. So, it's just one of those things that it's a balance, and I'm trying to be empathic from somebody, who's looking to work, and I get that. But just understand just from our side of the lens, what it looks like.
Why did you skip Tammy?
I'll get to Tammy, but I saw you were like, so I felt you were getting ready to say something, so I was like, yo.
I just want to make sure it's still fun. You got to put me last, the lead picture right here. So, now I forgot the question. The process, right? And then, right, online. So, and people in person. So I think it's interesting employment on a college campus, and you compare the dynamic of working in the real world and how jobs are competitive. You are applying against how many applicants, and the conversation of during COVID about how many people were applying for jobs and how competitive it is, and the quitting culture that occurred and everything like that. It's the same thing that can happen at a university. It's the same thing of the competitiveness for jobs. A lot of jobs on campus are entry-level positions. They're sometimes have simple requirements for them, and that's why it makes it a large applicant pool. So when it comes down to individuals applying, it's not that you might be not qualified for it. It might be just so many people who are qualified for it and finding the right fit for them. For context, at the Marshall Student Center, 1 year we had over 1,000 applicants for our positions, and we only hired 20 people. 1,000 out of 20 positions. That's a lot of people to go through. And I always kept getting emails saying, why didn't I get the job? Why didn't I get the job? And it's not of anything against you. It's how many applicants did we receive for those positions, and understanding that some people had some very reflective experience that applied directly to it, and some people had some good experience, but it was selecting the few that were able to hire. I think at the end of the day, it's important that sometimes you might not get that follow-up email, and I think some employers are doing a better job about sending that, closing the loop with you. And there's nothing wrong with you following up with them, but I think at the MNC, we try to do our best to close that loop and make sure you're aware of where you stand in our process. And that's where the eagerness can come from you to connect with employers and say, hey, where am I, without pestering them. Follow up with them and say, hey, where am I doing? I'm very eager, and show that willingness and that motivation to be one part of their team.
Agreed.
Ms. Tammy?
You're right there, on our campus alone, I think there's 40,000 students. I'm not including the population of St. Pete and Sarasota. So that is a tremendous amount of individuals looking for very few jobs. So as far as qualifications go, I would think as well, like we use Handshake in the student conduct office because we do not have our budget only allows for federal work study students to work within our office. And so it's a requirement that you have a federal work study award to apply for that job. And that is across multiple different departments here at USF. So please don't apply for that job if you have not been awarded a federal work study award, because we are unable to even talk to you at that point. But there are plenty of places who have OPS funds, which is a little bit different. And yeah, absolutely follow up and check up, but without becoming like aggressive about it. And when you do communicate either on email or however, if in person, please be professional and polite and respectful. Wear clothing that suggests that it's really important to you to get this job and that you're really interested in that you can show up on time and be professional and do the job. So it's your presentation, it's how you interact with other people. And you're right, not getting back to someone doesn't mean that you're not amazing. It just means that we simply did not have enough spaces for the people who were looking for positions.
Just wanted to add on, just like the last question where we said, you never know who you're going to run into based on what you do on campus. It works the same way when you're applying for a job. The way you present yourself, your reputation, you never know if I or the hiring manager decide you may not be the best fit, but you could be a good fit for another position. And then we'll talk amongst ourselves and say, hey, check out Patrick. He's great. He has charisma. He's probably a comedian as far as I'm concerned. But seriously, like we may pass on Pamela to another manager and Pamela could be a great fit for that position. And then she'll get the call and then things work out. And then now you're in a role where you didn't even know the role was open, but it's the dream job that you've always been looking for. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think it's important for students to understand that I believe when students apply for a job, they might think they might be the only person applying or not many people are applying. So they don't understand that hundreds, sometimes thousands of people are applying for this, and they're only looking, and most of those jobs in which hundreds are applying, they're only hiring one person. You were able to hire 20, but you have to, it was 1,000 still. So, I think it's important to understand that, like you said, persistency, there's a process to everything. It's not you, it's just the way things kind of fell in place. And that to just, be mindful of the approach of how they're doing things. So I really appreciate you all really sharing your thoughts behind that. And I'm pretty sure y'all have been experiencing that quite a bit. So thank you for that. So going off of that, talking about, being mindful of the approach, students have asked me, well, when I'm applying for positions, how do I make myself stand out so that I could get that call for an interview, or I could potentially get hired? So from your experience in hiring students, what are advice or maybe ways students can do to make themselves stand out, to maybe potentially, maybe if they weren't considered, to get to a point to where they could be considered for, at the very least, an interview?
Sure, I'd like to take this. And before I answer this question, I just want to make sure I give my qualifications. I have over 25 years of recruiting experience. And, not just in the academics, but, in pharma, tech, entertainment industry, Wall Street, like I worked in a lot of different areas. And recruiting is really, really evolving every, 2 to 3 years. I mean, it's not the same job it was, probably wasn't even 2 years ago when we started. So right now, a lot of initial interviewing that happens or the screening that happens isn't a person, it's AI. So going back to his comment about the job description, it's very important to look at those first 4 or 5 bullet points. And take your resume and tailor it so you're answering their questions. Now, what I mean by that is we might call something specific, it might be a USF term, how we refer to certain things. And the outside world might call it something different, but it's the same exact task or the same exact work responsibility. So use the language that's in the job description. You're still doing it. Don't use your own vernacular because it might not translate. The AI might not pick it up. Or even if there's a person who's reading it, they might sit there and go, wow, this person looks like a perfect fit. Their resume literally reads like our job description. It does, because you were able to tailor it. Now, is this sustainable? Can you do this for every job you apply to? No. But on the back end, what it's doing is it's making sure you're selective, you're applying to the right positions, you're not just spraying your resume everywhere. You're taking the time to apply to positions that you're truly qualified for. And I feel like that effort will probably pay off, in my opinion.
Awesome. Does anyone want to jump in and give additional feedback?
That was spot, that's literally what I was gonna say about, like AI and everything. That was pretty spot on. I can offer an example. Maybe you are, let's say your major is industrial psychology and you are looking for HR positions. So naturally, you're going to go online and see positions like HR business partner, HR generalist, but following the trends, like you said, recruitment changes every 2 or 3 years. Now companies are changing those titles to make it seem at least more work culture positive, if that makes sense. So now this HR generalist position or advisor is now called a culture warrior or a people champion, but it's the same type of experience needed. So that's why it's so important to look at that job description or title, go to your resume, find some keywords and make sure they match. Also want to shout out, there are a lot of AI programs that can help you do that. I won't name them because there are so many, but if you decide to use them, that does not mean just throw your resume in there, copy, paste, and upload it, because I've seen that so many times. I can spot mistakes all over the resume. I can literally tell which AI program you use if you don't, proofread, double check, and personalize, the product that comes out of that AI program. So when you're tailoring your resumes, make sure you're trying to match the job description and the job title as much as you can, and make sure you're adding your own personality in there, because even though AI is a robot, you don't want to seem like a robot, when you're submitting your application. So.
Patrick, Tammy, and I know y'all see tons of resumes, when students are, 1,000. So how do people stand out to you to get to that 20, to get to that 1 or 2 yet, anything you want to add to what Harrison Carey said or give a different perspective?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think how to word this here. It's been jumbling around in my head because I want to give a good analogy. I'm a very individual who likes the analogies. They're kind of related to something. And the only one I can think about right now is food, so I'm hungry. I think about like wedding cakes, and I don't know why wedding cakes. I'm not getting married or anything, but wedding cakes. You sample out a bunch of wedding cakes, right? How do you remember which one you like? You usually take notes of them, or you have like indications of which ones you like. So I think about the same thing with students, is which ones are going to make an impression on me when I have about 100 of them coming up and talking to me. It's like, how do you make an impression on an employer and have them write your name down? So what are those signature things? And that's not annoying someone. Like, that's not like being the most obnoxious cake or the most frosting on it. Like, it's making a pure impression that says you're interested in the job, but not pressuring about it. I've had people come up and shake my hand for almost a good minute, and I'm like, you can let go of my hand now. Like, this is not gonna get you a job. Like, okay. I've had people try to preach their whole resume to me, and I'm like, this is not the time or the place. It's understanding the appropriation of the situation, showing your interest, but understanding that you need to back off. There's a balance to it. And I think I'm a little old style here, even though I'm probably the youngest one here, is I don't mind an email follow-up. Hey, I submitted the application. Here's my qualification. I don't want 5 paragraphs in that email. Like, I don't want you to tell me your whole life story or explain all the same answers you put in the application, because there's an application for a reason. But if you just want to introduce yourself through an email, I don't mind that. 1,000 of them is going to take a while, but it's still something pure-hearted that shows you took the time to do it. And it's the same with thank yous. It's kind of rare and far in between that I get a thank you email nowadays. And I remember when I used to write handwritten ones and mail them out or deliver them and drop them off. And everyone thinks mail nowadays, like, no, but even an email, thank you, mentioning something you got from it or something you remember, like the amount of times I've sent an email after meeting someone, hey, it was a great meeting today. Thank you for talking about blah, blah, blah. If you can remember that and connect the conversation, it shows your true interest in what the position is about. And that's where your pure intentions come out. If you can elaborate what was discussed. If we're having a conversation, Tammy and I were talking about something, and I send a follow-up email like, hey, thanks for talking to me about your job today. It was great mentioning conduct and such an impact and how much it means to you. Like, she's gonna remember that and think, wow, Patrick listened to me and listened about what the job entailed. And that can make a good impression on the employer. That's my personal perspective on it, but I'll have others chime in as well.
1,000%. Thank you. A thank you follow-up is critical. I think it's becoming a lost art. So it certainly is going to make you stand out if you take the time to do that. And in the same way, Patrick, I would say, if you were deeply passionate about a job and you followed the protocol and you applied online, if you really are really interested and it really speaks to you deeply, I don't see anything wrong with just stopping by briefly with a folder with your resume and a cover letter and maybe a letter of recommendation that you weren't able to put in online because that wasn't allowed at that particular platform. But just say, I absolutely followed the protocol. I can't tell you how much this means to me just to be able to drop this information off so you have a better idea about who I am and bye, right? And then a follow-up thank you. Thank you for taking the time to accept my information. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Like, the follow-up is really big. And if you're applying for a job and you find yourself in an interview situation, please have done some research on that job. So when we start to ask you questions that relate to the position that you're applying for, be able to respond in a way that lets us know you at least looked at the website.
If I had 3 identical carbon copy Harrisons in front of me, same experience, interviewed exactly the same, got the same scores and everything, same qualifications, degree, and I have to decide between these 3 perfect Harrisons, I'm gonna choose Harrison, who wrote a thank you letter out of the 3. That would be the tiebreaker, because Harrison chose to distinguish himself with a thank you letter follow-up. So
I don't even think it's a bad thing to do if maybe you weren't the candidate of choice. Thank you for getting back to me. I appreciate this feedback. I appreciate you taking this time, because then again, we're going to be like, oh, Student Business Services might be looking for someone like this. And I remember that young man who was so kind and thoughtful. I'm going to suggest that they reach out to him too. So it really is important, and it does make you stand out. Kindness, respect.
I think you really don't want to burn bridges in the long run. I've had people apply for jobs multiple times and they didn't get it the first time, but I'll let you know if you apply for a second time, I could search up my email, and if you'd let something nasty or pestered me about something, like, it can leave a mark. And you think about these jobs, how far disconnected in between, like, we sit here together and probably don't have any connection, but hey, if they reach out and say, hey, you got any background on this person? How can we say what the experience is? So you don't really want to burn any bridges, because you never know what that can allow you to get in the future.
Yeah, a little hack that I have is, in terms of, I'll say build bridges instead of burning them, right? Is if you want to leave a thank you note, do it inside a LinkedIn connection request. You can write a quick little line in there, thank you very much for, and now you're getting something out of it too, because now you're adding somebody to your network. Who knows if this person might be connected to somebody else down the road. You never know, how you guys can interact again. And, it's just a way for you to build out your network, online. So, it's kind of, thank you in sheep's clothing.
Savvy.
Awesome. Nice nuggets. Y'all shared so much nuggets in that segment. I'm hoping that people take what y'all said, those nuggets is very important. And to the thank you notes, I want to share a story. It was a story of me interviewing for this position. When I interviewed, I made sure when everyone introduced themselves, I made sure to make a note of everyone's name, so I could look them up on the directory to find their email to send them all thank you notes. So after the interview was over, I emailed every single person that was on the interview, and I sent them thank you notes.
Individually, right?
Individually. And I will say there was some I personalized. So my friend Ivan here, Ivan's from Puerto Rico. I'm from the Virgin Islands. So I was like, hey, Ivan, thank you for taking time to interview me today. It was good to see another fellow Islander, in the interview. And I called Ivan. He's like, oh, because he told me, he's like, oh, he knows what he's doing. But it did go a long way. And then when I got hired, members of the team said, you're one of the few people that send thank you notes after the interview. So I know it made an impact. So those thank yous or following up and setting a good example, it goes a long way. It goes a very long way. So thank y'all for sharing. And as we move on to the next question, students might do all that. They might do everything perfect, or they might, make sure to do everything right, but they still don't get that job or kind of get where they want to go. And it could get to a point where they could get very frustrated. And it could be like, I'm doing everything right. Like, why isn't this working out? So I'm gonna go to you first time because you're Mama Bear.
Thank you.
You have to be Mama Bear. So
I do.
so when students get frustrated, especially after doing everything right, like what is advice can you give to them to kind of move past those frustrations and to stay persistent and to keep looking?
Thank you for that question, Edson, and your kindness. I take that as a huge compliment. I do. It's easy to get frustrated, especially when you need to make money, right? You want to start your life. You need to pay bills. You want to go out to eat. You have things to do. You want to help pay for books. We all need to work. And there's a lot of times that we're going to get a lot of no's, and it's okay to be frustrated. But I think if you're going to be frustrated, you give yourself a time frame. You say, I'm going to take 5 minutes to feel sorry for myself or be frustrated about this, and then move on. Right? If it didn't work out, it wasn't because of something that you necessarily did. Maybe there just wasn't the right fit. Maybe there wasn't enough positions. It could be multiple different things. And it certainly doesn't mean that it's your fault. So, find it in your heart to keep looking, to be persistent, to be kind, to follow up, and know that it's not you, that everything doesn't always work out right. And sometimes that's for the best. But becoming frustrated and getting down on yourself, it shows in your demeanor, it shows in the way that you feel, it shows how you present to other people. So I think it's just really important to understand that everything isn't always going to work out. Keep your foot to the ground and work really hard and don't give up and just, keep doing what you know is right. And eventually that right fit is going to come along. Can't give up. Can't give up.
Yes, I did have my hand up, but I don't know. So motivational. And I'm sitting over here reflecting on how to deliver that message to you right now. Because it's not one I don't want to say like keep going, because at the end of the day, like it's tough. It's a struggle sometimes to get through that. But I think as I think about some of the inspirational quotes and things I've heard and told people is one of my favorite authors is John Maxwell, and he wrote the book on failing forward. And it talked about like failure, but how are you moving forward from that? How are you progressing, continue to progress yourself as you continue? It's not the end all be all that you didn't get a job on campus. And I know with the financial constraints of certain people, you might need a job to succeed or to get you through these years on campus. But how are you taking this opportunity and learning from it and moving forward? Maybe it wasn't the position for you. Maybe you go for it again. I've had people apply for our jobs 2-3 times before they get it. And you know what? They are a little bitter when they finally get the job, but they appreciate it when they finally get it. So how are you failing and progressing yourself? How do you continually improve? And the one quote that also sits with me is you don't get the opportunity, then grow, you grow, then get the opportunity. So how, if you don't get the position, how are you going to progress yourself to be ready for it when it becomes available again? So if you didn't get a job with us, or you didn't get a job working an IT job, how are you going to progress yourself and get training and certifications that job comes up again? You're going to be ready this time to be actually apply for it. If you're gonna apply for a head chef job and you're not eligible right now, what certifications are you gonna go for? So you're ready for when the job comes. Because if you're not ready and the job's there, it's too late. You're not gonna be able to get the job. So what are you doing to prepare for that next step? And especially the team here is putting on this seminar has a lot of opportunities for students on campus to grow, from LinkedIn Learning to professional development sessions, that you can start building yourself as an individual to be ready for those opportunities.
I love that you, yes, go to the Center for Career and Professional Development. They're here to help you with your resume. They're here to help you write a good cover letter. They're here to give you tips on interviewing, like so many great campus resources available to us. Thank you, Patrick. Love that.
Everything they said. And one other thing is, I like to, because I also have a very quick story. Like when I moved here to Tampa from New York City, I moved here trying to apply to a specific company. I applied. I didn't get it, but they told me why I didn't get it. I didn't get it because I needed to work on working with time zones on a global scale, like all over the world. So I made it a mission that my next job would be a job where I had to work with time zones all over the world. I got 2 years of experience doing that, and then I went back and applied, and I got it. And walking through that office was the greatest feeling ever, saying I applied a second time, got rejected before, I went out, I did the work, and now I'm here. And the other thing I wanted to say is, depending on the job that you were aiming for, maybe you didn't get it, but you heard a few of us mention LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn, search that job, follow a few people that hold the same job title and have the same experience, and just watch their journey, because a lot of people on LinkedIn now, which we call top voices, I think, on LinkedIn, they will literally give you free information. Like when I was in your spot, I wanted to be a data analyst. I didn't know how to do it. I kept getting rejected from jobs. Then I started to self-teach myself Microsoft SQL and Power BI, like all that kind of stuff. And then I got this certification and I took this test. And now I work at Meta as a junior data analyst. So definitely don't give up. Like give yourself 5 minutes or even a whole day to be frustrated and upset, but definitely get back up and continue to fight and go after that job or occupation that you want to, be in.
We good? All right.
To your LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning is a resource available to all of us at USF. And there are thousands of different things that you can do on LinkedIn and earn badges and certificates and things that you can add to your LinkedIn profile. So many great resources available. Check out the Center for Career and Professional Development. They can hook you up.
That's shameless plug. Thank you, Tammy.
She is sponsored.
Appreciate that. And I love the energy, the motivational talk. It's needed, right? Because you said it, Patrick, like it can get tough, and sometimes you might put yourself in this dark place that you don't need to be because I think we could be our own worst enemy. So when we don't get the jobs that we want, or we're applying, or we're not hearing back or anything, we start to say, well, what am I doing? What's wrong with me? And we start to go down this hole that we don't need to go down. So I think it's important to know that, and also when we're going through this, we think we're the only ones going through it. But people also need to understand that there's hundreds of people that are in the same shoes that you're in, or potentially be worse. So I want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts and comments, and it was very appreciative to hear those. So going to our next question, and I think this might ruffle some feathers a little bit. But during my time, observing and meeting with students and just, kind of just looking at some things, I've come across students who, or I've heard of, and we have alluded to this in some ways earlier, and so I kind of want to get a little bit more deeper into it, if we could. But students walking into people's office, demanding jobs, why they're not getting hired, what's going on, why you're not hiring me, being pushy, being very rude, or not setting a good impression. Not to throw you under the bus, Harris, but I know you deal with this a lot. So kind of but just definitely wanted to get your feedback and opinion, and just to kind of share with students like what type of an impact that leaves, with employers such as you all, or even beyond that as well.
Well, I think it's a few things, right? I always come from a place of empathy, putting myself in somebody else's shoes. Nobody's kicking down anybody else's door for a job unless they really need work, and they're in a difficult position. So it's always important to remember that, and I think it's very easy to forget that when you're gainfully employed. to sit there and kind of, judge somebody who might not be. The one thing I will mention is you don't want to be too aggressive because, best case scenario, if you do get the job, now you have to work with people who you might have, rubbed the wrong way. So you're already walking into first day of job, kind of behind the eight ball. I think another thing is there's nothing wrong with having some respectful, resilience. But again, it's a balance and I don't know what that is for each person. It's different. But, if you reached out maybe once or twice and you haven't heard back, that in myself, sometimes no response is a response. It's not great. I feel like everybody should get some communication, especially in this day and age where you can automate processes, at least giving people some feedback. There's been other cases where you had a sign saying this is an employee only area, you have to wear non-slip shoes, you cannot enter without them. And I see people walking in with their resume, I'm like, did you not see the sign on there, And for some of us who work in food safety where, especially this day and age of allergies and people having dietary restrictions and aversions, somebody who can't read signs to me is almost a disqualifier, right? So it depends on the situation, but I can only talk about, kind of what I've seen with the last few months of being here. So, like I said, I think it's use your best judgment, be respectful. It's okay to sit there and find out, hey, what am I missing? I think a lot of people can demand that, but at the same time, listen when somebody tells you what the missing piece is. So.
Well, you're making an impression when you interact with someone and it's good or bad. So you get to decide which way that goes, right? The way you treat other people and how you interact and the respect that you show each other.
Patrick, you seem like you're like.
Oh, I'm gonna talk, but I think when I talk, I take away. That's what I'm. I'm the jokester. So it's actually quite interesting, as I continue to do student employment, the approach of students is very unique sometimes. And you can kind of see the different personalities, those who are really eager for a job, those that are a little bit on the aggressive side, those that are continually bothering. And it's like, I'll tell you that us administrators do have meetings. It's not like we're just twiddling our thumbs in our office. We do have meetings going on, so we can't always step out to talk to you. But I think the conversation of dropping off, Tammy said, dropping off the paper, just showing interest, but I've seen students that demand a meeting or sneak around an office and try to sneak into people's offices and knock, hey, are you busy? And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this is not the formalities. And there's formalities for a reason for that process. And being that we hire so many, is we've made some strategies to help navigate and make sure that you get your time to talk to us and make sure that you have the opportunity to. And with our interview processes, we make sure our intro sessions that we host now is you can ask us questions and you can talk to us then and there. There's an appropriate time to do that. But I think there's inappropriate methods to do it as well. And that can just come off the wrong way. And some I understand there's a cultural barrier. Sometimes there's difference of understanding in a sense of I'm doing this just to show my interest, but it may not come off that way. So I always say intent versus impact. Okay, what is your intent? It makes sense. Your intent is to show your eagerness for a job, but what impact are you gonna have on that? What impact are you gonna have that employer to be like, did that come off the wrong way? Okay, did that, this first impression not well? Imagine you're going on a date and you're meeting your date's parent for the first way, okay? Intent versus impact. Your intent was to be a friendly person, but did that come off? What was the impact you made on that? So just think about that when you have that approach with an employer, is your impact you're gonna make on them.
It also may have to do with influencers on social media. I like to read a lot on like business, finance, self-improvement, all that kind of stuff. And what I see on social media is a typical story of the rich millionaire who made it, and then he's on, I don't know, NBC or something saying, how did you make it? Oh yeah, it all started when I was 21 years old. I walked right in the car wash and said, I want a job. And now I own 20 car wash stores all over the world. That's 99.9% of the time, in my opinion, that is not how it works. Story is probably not true. So,
Even if it is, it's an outlier.
it's not.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I don't know.
The listen, jokes aside, if you're gonna walk into people's offices, you might get arrested. Don't do that.
Well, and honestly, I know that this can be a scary time in life. You're worried, you know, grades, you pressure from parents, from faculty, from yourself, from peers, like there's a lot going on. And you're worried about what's next for me and how am I gonna get to that next space? So please know that every person that I know and that I think that you interact with here at the University of South Florida genuinely care about you and your development and your ability to go out into the world and make a difference. Like, we are here to support you. Like, we want to be here to help you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Can't top that.
No, I can't.
We genuinely care. We are here for you. We're here for you.
Yeah, I think it's important when students ask me and I tell them like, look, like you gotta be mindful of your approach because you never know, like, again, I think we talked about this, you never know what impressions you're gonna leave and what it's gonna make. And you're acting this way to me. If you were looking for someone or you were looking for someone, you were looking for someone, you were looking to hire someone, would I recommend this person? I don't think so, because I'm not gonna recommend an individual to work for people who I highly respect and, you know, not give me a bad name and stuff like that, you know? So I think it's important to be very mindful of your approach on how you do things. And I always say, kill people with kindness. Like, always be kind, always be a good person, you know? And, you know, don't allow the outside noise to get to you to impact your decision making. So thank you all for sharing that. And, you know, if you all have dealt with that, God bless. As we're getting ready to close, I just want to give you an opportunity to give any final words or advice or any type of message or information you want to share or give to our students in regards to student employment, you know, life-changing things. Like, this is your moment. As we're getting ready to close, whatever final words or advice I want to give, the floor is yours.
We mentioned that, you know, that funk that people can get in and they blame themselves for why they put in hundreds of applications and they're not getting calls back. The job market right now is very uncertain and mysterious. Most of the time, it's an element that's outside of your control. You know, with AI and all these different programs and softwares coming out, even the companies themselves may not know what their strategy is at this exact time. There could be, I think they call them like shadow postings, where there are actually companies out there, not us, we're not doing this. But there are companies out there that are posting jobs with no intention to fill them. So hundreds and hundreds of applications just going into a black hole. I don't understand why that's being done, but I want you guys to know that it is happening. So there are varying reasons as to why you're not getting that call back. It's not always you. You should not beat yourself up too long. You should understand that it may take 99 no's before you finally get that yes. So.
Yeah, I think on the flip side of that, you know, say I post a job and there's 4 qualified people out there. But I get 100 inbound resumes. A lot of people aren't qualified. A lot of these are bots who aren't really even real profiles, but they're just applying to jobs. We don't know why, but it's happening. So I might go through the first 50, find 3 people, and that 4th person who might be the best, you know, out of the 4 qualified folks, I might not even go that far in my search. I'll say, listen, I've gone through 50 resumes. I found 3 that are good. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and close the posting and then just introduce these folks to the interview process and see what happens. So there's multiple reasons. Anybody ever heard the acronym Q-tip?
Yes.
It's like, you know, quit taking it personally. It's not your fault. You know, there's so many different reasons. And I understand the frustration. Sometimes there's just not an exact answer for it. But, you know, stay optimistic and stay positive. And, you know, you mentioned that this is a very employer-driven market. 18 months ago, it wasn't. You know, there was way more people, way more jobs and not enough qualified people. So that kind of depends on the economy too. It goes up and down. So, you know, these things are cyclical. Just know that whatever it is, it's not permanent.
Network, network, network. Like, honestly, that is like the most important thing I can say. Like, you never know who you're networking with. So join a club, join an organization. Every time you come into contact, like to follow up on what Patrick said earlier, hey, it was nice talking to you today about blah, blah, blah. Like, you never know who you're networking with, whose parents might work at a company, who knows somebody who needs somebody. Like, it's so important to build your network, because I wish I could say it's all about how hard you work, but it's really not always about how hard you work. It sometimes is about who you know. And it's so critical to network, to keep interacting with other people, to keep up with others, to network. We're networking right now. I'm gonna email each of you. I'm not joking. When I get back to work, like, thank you. You never know. You never know. Anyone you meet could be your next avenue or opportunity for the next thing that you need to get to.
Close up, Patrick.
I'm gonna close it up. For your reflecting, I want to leave on a good note for you. And I think the first thing I want to say is, as you know, my name is Patrick and I'm your friend. I'm here. I don't want to make anyone feel that they are not getting the most from their experiences in applying for jobs. So the one thing I want to say, it's a deep quote that that's ringing in my head is the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. Okay. The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary, okay? It's that working process to be successful. And I don't know if anyone's heard the Mount Everest story, the Mount Everest story of people who, why they climb Mount Everest. You know, it's a great view at the top, you know, but they always say that if they just put someone on the top of Mount Everest, they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate the value for it. And people say, why? You know, they see have the great view, they're up on top of the mountain. Because they didn't put the work in to be there. They don't have the value for it. So when we talk about applying for jobs, it's building that value for it, the value of that job, and you put that effort in, you made that resume, you submitted the application, you got ready for that interview, you start valuing that job more. Okay, so building that value on what you have and making sure it's a valuable experience for you. I leave on one final note here, and especially for all of employers here, and this is just the long run for all of you students, is that we take time to help you, invest in you, give you these experiences here. We're building a harvest. We're helping you grow with your experiences. At the end of the day, we don't reap the reward of that harvest because you leave us in 4, 5, 6 years. So this type of services that are being offered right now and this type of feedback that we give you, we hope you take it personally and reflect upon it, that reflective experiences. Because at the end of the day, you're not, I don't know if any of you are going to work at a college or continue working here, but we don't get to see the true you that leaves here. But we're trying to do our best right now to pour into you, to help you grow, to be the best person possible. So thank you for attending today. I'm going to pass it back to Edson here to take it away.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I think I did a great job in choosing this panel. I think I did a good job. But no, on a serious note, thank you all so much for attending. I know y'all are busy, but y'all took the time to come out. So Tammy, Harris, Kyrie, Patrick, y'all are amazing. Thank you all so much. I want to thank my team at the Center for Career and Professional Development for allowing me to do this event tonight and for all the support that they've given me. To our audience online and in person, thank y'all so much for attending. For online, if you have any questions, you can reach out to our team and we'll make sure to answer any questions to you all. For anyone that's in the room, we'll still come from here in a couple of minutes. If you want to talk to any one of us, ask questions, please feel free to do so. But thank you to everyone, and we're here to serve you. So take care and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.